When you think of art, you might think of oil pastels or watercolor or graphite or other kinds of physical mediums. But one of the most common kinds of art right now is actually digital art. And digital art can be really tricky, I know, but certain styles are so easy to learn. You may have seen this kind of illustration that I've done recently, and anything in this kind of style is actually so easy to learn. I've done quite a few of them, and every time I get a response like, wow, that looks so hard to do, or it must have taken so long. But it's actually very simple, so I'm going to show you how to do it. First thing you're going to want to do is find an app that you can do digital art on. I recommend using Sketchbook because it's free and really simple for beginners to figure out how to use. After that, you're going to need to find a picture you want to illustrate. I'm using this picture of Lanyon because the colors are really simple and the highlights and shadows are really easily defined, so you can find where they are pretty quickly. After you get your picture imported to Sketchbook, you're going to want to add a layer to do your art on. You add a layer because that way if you mess up, you can erase it without damaging the reference photo. When you're on your second layer, choose which area you're going to paint first and find a color that's similar. It doesn't have to be the exact same shade, but as long as it's generally in the same area, it should work. Then, using a pretty thin pen, outline the entire thing and make sure to get all the bumps because it makes it look more realistic and not to miss any parts. Because we have the whole outline done, you're going to use a paint bucket to fill it in and spending all your time trying to color it in because it takes forever. I started by coloring in the shirt and then went on with the skin. Be careful when you're trying to find skin color because it's pretty hard to make and color dropping isn't always accurate, so make sure you find one that looks pretty realistic. You're going to want to create another layer and put this layer underneath the one with all the base colors that you put, but on top of the original reference picture. Then in this layer, color the entire thing a color that isn't seen much in the picture. I chose orange because there wasn't orange much in my reference. When you do this, you can see all the little areas you missed, like this section where I accidentally erased a line, and this part where neither of the colors touched each other. So once you do that, go and fill them all in and make sure you have all the little lines filled in. Now that you're done with the base colors, you're going to want to move on to shadows. Shadows don't take as long, but can be pretty tricky to learn how to do. The first thing you're going to do is find the right color for the shadow. Don't go off the reference picture because it might be different than what you have for your base. So go to your base and make the color a little darker than what you've put down. Then turn off the base layer and go to the reference picture and outline all the little areas that look darker and fill them in. It doesn't matter if the color matches your reference because we already know that it's darker than the base you've put down. Just another warning, when shading skin, make sure the darker color doesn't look gray. You want it to have more of an orange or brown tone so that it looks more like actual skin. Then, when you have all the shadows done, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do for the background. You can either have it so you see the original reference like photo background, or you can put any color you want behind it. Then when you choose, you're done. I know I said I was done in the last clip, but if you want a photo that looks more realistic or more complex, you can choose to add highlights. With highlights still, you have to be careful because highlights aren't usually as centrally located as contours are. Like with shadows, there's usually a definite line, so that's why I use a hard pen. But if you're doing highlights, you usually want to blend it out to make it look more natural and not as harsh, because highlights usually aren't as harsh as contours are. So if you choose to go through, find the lighter areas and use an airbrush, or you can use a pen and blend out the edges to make it look more smooth. Then when you do that, it'll look more realistic because there'll be more depth to the picture and not just the shadows. So that's also an option if you want to add a little more realism to the photo. While illustrating can be a little time consuming, it is entirely free and not too difficult to process. So if you're ever looking for a new hobby or a way to waste some time, I would recommend starting out with illustration.